I grew up on skis. My first photograph shows me on skis at the age of 3, and that was 89 years ago. Went by train, and in 1932, so I was 11 years old. And I remember, I think the train went from here to Syracuse maybe, and then from Syracuse back up into the Adirondacks. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember, and it's on the film that my father made, of us getting off the train and getting into sleighs, horse-drawn sleighs, that took us to the Lake Placid Club where we stayed. And then the excitement of going out to Intervale to watch the ski jumping. And when recently I was up there and compared the original Olympic jump to what the jump is now, and it miles apart in the imagination of how modern technique has what it's done with athletics.
Olympics.
Oh, skating. My parents were figure skaters. In fact, my parents used to give figure skating exhibitions at Central Park. There always used to be a skating carnival, and Central Park here was always frozen over. That's interesting because it doesn't seem to be frozen over that much anymore, does it?
No.
So they gave skating exhibitions, and also at the Mohawk Golf Club, and also at the Edison Club that used to have a skating rink on their tennis courts, I remember. So I was also brought up, doing figure skating as well as skiing. Well, of course, whiteface didn't exist. There was the only ski event was the jumping. So obviously there was snow there because I remember the jumping, and there must have been some snow because we did ski in the golf course.
There was no racing. There was no ski racing.
Oh no! Oh no! No, my father wasn't involved in forming the safety patrol. That was Carl Schaefer.
A group of volunteers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if you want to hear any more about that, I know that Jim Schaefer always very enjoys talking about it and sharing his information about the first patrol. It was his mother, I guess, who established it. He was a physician, a surgeon, and it was very helpful having him on the train because he took care of any accidents that happened. I'm trying to think how old I was. 13. I was a teenager, and of course, just starting to get interested in boys. So it was very exciting to have a whole group of our age arriving down in the train station, everybody greeting each other, and all full of excitement, even though it was 6 o'clock in the morning, which was always kind of a tough deal to get up and make it. But the excitement was there, and one of the biggest things I remember was the fun of going into the baggage car where all the skis were stored And there was some kind of a musician on board. I don't know whether it was a guitar or what his instrument was, but at any rate, we square danced in the baggage car. And that was very exciting because, there were boys there. Arrival in North Creek was always a highlight, and everybody rushed out of the train and grabbed their ski equipment and headed for the trucks that were parked alongside the railroad tracks that would take us up the mountain. And a lot of the trucks were open air, so everybody was standing. They were all crowded into an area with their skis sticking up way over their heads, of course. And so we, for 25 cents, we had to pay 25 cents for the trip up to get to the top of the mountain. And since North Creek had just very recently made their trails down Gore Mountain, the one that was always the most popular was, there I go again, forgetting, Halfway Brook. And you want to be part of this? Okay. I can remember several other occasions when my parents drove me up to Saratoga because there was a train that ran from Saratoga to North Creek. And I had become friends with the Hoopers, who had a garnet mine on the mountain farther north from Gore Mountain. And I used to go up there on winter vacations at their invitation to stay. And they had a rope tow that went down their front lawn down towards the lake. I can't remember the name of the lake at this point. But that was one of our excitements, riding that rope tow. In any event, off we went down the trail, and of course the trails were so narrow that there really wasn't any opportunity of making turns to slow yourself down, so all anybody ever did was, a nice wide snow plow before you ran into your neighbor who was skiing in front of you. And then the trail Halfway Brook was named for the fact that there was a brook that ran across the trail. And I can very clearly remember the day that my mother was going down the trail and she couldn't slow down enough to make the turn that took you across the bridge and across Halfway Brook. And she landed head first in the brook. Well, fortunately, it was frozen over, so she didn't have any damage, except we sort of had to dig her out of the snow in the brook. And then, many, unless the skiers were from the country, upstate, and had more adequate ski equipment. I remember so clearly Goldstocks, and how they were Goldstock Sporting Goods, how important they were in advocating and promoting skiing in this area, because they had the equipment for us to buy, but the New Yorkers all came with just toe straps. And then, of course, there's the famous story of Bill Gleason and the bear. Are you familiar with that story?
No.
Oh, well, this is the best. It seems that there was always a New York overnight ski train that happened to be in the station at the same time we were. And, of course, the New Yorkers really didn't have any idea of mountaineering. So the gear that you saw on Halfway Brook was always very interesting to observe. And the one in particular I remember was the woman who had rubber overshoes on over her high heels and was just in a toe strap going down the mountain. And of course she would fall every X number of feet and get up and giggle and start on again. So that's one of my memories. The other one is the story of Bill Gleasing, who had a cabin very close by the trail and had a stuffed bear on his porch. And the biggie was for the guys to get this bear strapped upright somehow on a toboggan. And as the New Yorkers were coming down the trail and coming around a corner, they would push the toboggan out into the middle of the trail. And I think that someplace somebody has recorded pictures of them, the skiers just flying off in all directions into the woods, absolutely petrified from this bear that appeared out of the woods. So,
But were those trails from the top, from the Garnet Mine, or were
yes, yeah.
And so the little North Creek ski bowl was much smaller, is at the bottom.
Yes, the Halfway Brook did not run into the ski bowl. That was Pete Gay. Halfway Brook went down towards the river and went through somebody's backyard. And we had to be picked up by the buses or the trucks and either taken back into town or taken back up the mountain. And then there was the time that there was an accident on Halfway Brook, and my father was called to the scene because there was a broken leg. And it was somebody from the ski train, and I can remember so clearly my mother running absolutely desperately after the conductor because he had called all aboard, and my father wasn't there, and she said, "You can't start the train. Dr. Woodall isn't here yet. He's taking care of a broken leg," so they had to hold the train up until they got the injured person someplace. I don't know where. But anyway, my father finally arrived and the train took off.
Were the trains?
These were day trains from here, but the overnight trains were from New York. But I do remember after the war was over, when they had bought up a lot of the ski gear that the government had for the ski troops, and I think those, well, of course they were huge. They went way up over your hand, and they were painted white, so they would be disguised in the snow, and they must have had some kind of a heel strap to hold the soldiers' boots in, and they were $2 for a pair of those skis.
Did they come with skins, like seal skins, or did
No. You had to buy the seal skin separately. And I can remember the trail up at North Creek that we used to climb. It was called the Garnet Trail, and it started from the top of the Hooper Mines, from the top of the mountain. From the Hooper Mines, which was up on the mountain, and it went up to the top of Gore Mountain where there was a fire tower. And I can remember so clearly marching up that trail, boom, 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 with my sealskins on. And in fact, my husband did a lot of filming. We have a beautiful film of me skiing the Garnet Trail in my kilt, which was always famous back in the 1940s. And sadly enough, apparently, my last trip up there, I remember putting the seal skins over a branch of a tree, and I never went back to get them, and maybe they're still there. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the Garnet And then there was another one I can't remember.
And today you have the Cloud Trail, which
The Cloud, that's it.
it's the same name. So they
The Cloud and the Garnet were two different trails.
Cloud Trail today is in the same place that it was in.
Yes, yeah. You know, I taught at Gore for, I think, 30 or more years. I was there, I was on their staff the day they opened, and used to go up there and teach 2 days a week. No, I loved Gore, and no, their beginner area was very satisfactory.
What did you think of the gondola when they put that in at Gore? Did you
Oh,
love
that
it?
was pretty cool.
What was it like to ride the gondola for the first time?
Well, I always enjoyed looking around at the scenery and looking down at the pitch, and it certainly was a far cry from my first days of skiing at Gore. I have a photograph on my desk, I think, someplace, of a group of us who were, I think, probably I was in maybe 8th or 9th grade when a group of us went up and spent a week at North Creek on the first rope tow, which was put in by Carl Schaefer on Peaceful Valley Road, which is the entrance to the Big Gore right now. And those were my first ski lessons. And this was the Schaefers who were so responsible of making Gore such a well-known ski area. And we're very fortunate because we have Jim Schaefer and his wife Kim, who are a very important factor in our ski school. They run our little kids program for 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, and is very, very well known in the East. I guess that's some of my biggest recall about North Creek and the snow train.